Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
I had talks and negotiations with MVP, with Matchroom, who was with Eddie Hearn, MVP, who was with Jake Paul and Nikita Bodarian. I had talks with Eddie Hearn, who's with Matchroom. I had talks with my promoter Salida, and then I had talks with Salida and Win Promotions together. So it was, like I said, nobody had a terrible deal, if that makes sense. Like, I think everybody came with it, and MVP definitely came with it. I'm not gonna say that they didn't, but
What does that mean? What was the number?
it wasn't 8 million.
Clarissa Shields has since revealed that she talked to Matchroom, she talked to MVP, rejected their offers in favor of this one, on the premise that it's worth an estimated $8 million, which is being received with some skepticism. Behind the scenes, I've known for weeks now that those talks were being held with Matchroom, with MVP. MVP, in spite of how Clarissa has behaved towards them, they were willing to pick her up. Better than I am, because I wouldn't have offered a shit. What's interesting is Clarissa didn't accuse either Matchroom or MVP of lowballing her. She says that they both made good and sizable offers to her, and yet she rejected their offers to stay with Salida, who was already promoting her. So why would Clarissa have rejected offers from Matchroom and MVP just to stay with the same promoter? Surely that communicates the legitimacy of this $8 million deal, that Clarissa wouldn't have turned them down unless this was for real. $8 million spread across 2 years, averaging 2 fights a year for the next 2 years. You're looking at what? $2 million a fight for 4 fights. Assuming Clarissa fights 4 times in the next 2 years. Clarissa also said that her boyfriend Papoose was pivotal in facilitating the deal, the new one, not just with her longtime promoter Dimitri Salida, but also with Win Records, who most assume will be kicking out the $8 million, since Dimitri Salida, he don't pay out that kind of money. So if she's getting $8 million now, it must be from them. But who are they? I mean, we know that they're not boxing people. They don't promote boxing matches. So who are they in the entertainment sense, in the entertainment industry? What well-known acts do they promote, do they hold contracts with, that they're offering up that kind of money to a boxer? Do they really have that kind of money? Who are these people? Boxing promoter Corey Rapax said, "I'm guessing this deal is heavy on equity in whatever Win Records is. That would explain why they're involved. You can make equity look like whatever you want to, so you can then make an announcement to make it look like you're higher paid than your contemporaries." That was my initial guess. That this is a sort of bluff, a leverage play. If you announce to the world that you've got an $8 million deal that gets you roughly $2 million a fight, based on that, if somebody wants to use you for, say, a Jadeja Green fight or a Savannah Marshall rematch, you can then tell them, well, listen, I get $2 million a fight, so if you want to use me, you got to give me that or better. So you're telling me that Clarissa Shields turned down real offers from real promoters for real money, for fake money, for bluff money? What the fuck, is she a moron? Is she a fool? Fool in love. Pay attention to who facilitated the deal. Pay attention to who brought Win Records to the table. It was Papoose. She said that. She said he facilitated the deal between Win Records and Dimitri Salida. Clarissa and Papoose have been dating for a few months now. They're still in the honeymoon phase. Early days. Before you start to irritate each other, before you start to get on each other's nerves, before she's complaining to him about leaving the toilet seat up, and he's complaining to her about her attitude and leaving bundles of hair in the sink.
Stopping it up.
Still early days in the honeymoon phase, when Clarissa is more inclined to adhere to Papoose's counsel, who facilitated this deal. Sounds a lot like Win Records are his guys, his people. Did Papoose tell Clarissa to turn down real offers and real money so that he could secure a high-profile signing for his buddies at Win Records, who are really just a fledgling promotion or entertainment firm? I'll tell you the truth that before this, I'd never heard of these people. I don't know who they are. They seem very much new. But did Pap convince her to turn down real offers for real money so he could secure a signing for his buddies at Win Records to help legitimize them and launch them. Work with them. Ask yourself, what other professional boxers are they working with? What other recording artists? What other successful and well-known acts do they have in their roster that they are now offering up $8 million over 2 years to a professional fighter? This is clearly not their racket. This is not what they do. But this is what they're supposed to do for Clarissa over the next 2 years. Announcing to the world that you just signed what is arguably the most lucrative contract for a female boxer means the onus is on you to make the offers and promote the fights. You don't make an announcement like this, then get into a haggling situation with some other girl's promoter over what they're supposed to be paying you. No, if this deal is legitimate and these people are real and this money is real, you're the one supposed to make the offers. You're the one supposed to promote everything. You're the A side, right?
Right.
Imagine how bad the optics would have been if Clarissa Shields had signed to MVP after all the awful things that she's said about them. Said about Jake, said about Amanda. Signing to MVP in spite of their lucrative offers still would have been very bad optics for Clarissa. Good optics for MVP, but somewhat bad for her. Signing to Matchroom wouldn't have been as bad, but Matchroom doesn't really have the bodies for Clarissa, do they? If Clarissa would have signed to MVP, that would have widely been interpreted as Clarissa bending the knee and kissing the rings. At least this way, she gets to maintain the illusion of independence, that she doesn't need Jake Paul, and she doesn't need MVP when she very much does. They operate at a higher tier, a higher scale than Dimitri Salita, who still is her promoter. Does Dimitri have a megaphone like MVP has a megaphone? Does Dimitri have a Netflix deal? Does Win? What's entirely possible is that because she sprung, Papoose convinced her to take a dick and a booty deal. You might have just turned down real money for fake money, maybe money, bluff money. Now we'll see if this entire arrangement is not contingent upon the health of her relationship with Papoose, that it doesn't all crash and burn and fall apart in the next 2 years, because relationships, sometimes they're just for a season. They all start out all right, but they don't end that way. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, earlier today, DAZN officially announced its new Ultimate subscription tier. The tier reportedly includes a minimum of 12 pay-per-views at no additional cost, even though the tier itself is an additional cost, and the tier requires an annual commitment. They want to get you locked in. The price is $44.99 per month or $539 per year. You can save $89 by paying $449 upfront. A minimum of 12 pay-per-views per year. This is a far cry from what Turkey said over the summer months, saying that he had a great meeting with his brother, Shay Segev, CEO of DAZN. We have a big vision to grow boxing and decided no more pay-per-view. Starting with our Ring Magazine show in November, all Riyadh season and ring events will be free to DAZN subscribers.
Not exactly.
If by free you meant having to pay extra for this ultimate tier, the pay-per-view model has damaged boxing, and we will no longer support it. We are with the fight fans. But what the fight fans are now saying,
bullshit.
What the fight oracle is saying, $45 per month or $450 a year, but the 12 plus pay-per-views are free. There aren't 12 pay-per-view worthy boxing events in a calendar year. LOL. You've got to be a bit sharp to understand that sarcasm, to understand that one, because it's essentially creating a problem and then charging people for the solution. Twitter user that goes by the name Whatakant said, they are upscaling shit cards to pay-per-view so that when they release the Ring Pass, it will feel justified paying for it. But all you will be getting are the same cards as before, rebranded as pay-per-view, except now at a higher price. Ring cards are fewer too, so just bin this.
Expound.
Remember Moses Atelma versus Dillian White and the more recent Fabio Wardley versus Joseph Parker fights? Those were billed as pay-per-views where normally you would have got to see those at no additional charge via ESPN, via Frank's US broadcast deal. That's what he means. They're upscaling shit cards to pay-per-view. The kind of cards you would have normally got at no additional charge are now being made pay-per-views so that they can act like they're saving you money. You're really just compounding on an existing problem. If the problem has been that there are too many fights behind a paywall and boxing is getting too expensive to watch, You're not remedying that problem by doing more pay-per-views.
And you are, in fact, doing more pay-per-views. You're just sort of pretending that you're not if we lock in for a year at an additional fee on top of the subscription fee.
This is lunacy. This is ludicrous. This is essentially creating a problem, then charging people for the solution, except the solution is just a veiled effort to siphon more money from more people who still don't have it.
A lot of people already thought that an annual DAZN subscription was pricey at about $225 a year.
If that was pricey, what the fuck is this? So you're telling me that I gotta go out and get a bank loan to watch some fucking boxing? Is that the way that it works now? Is this how you intend to grow the sport of boxing? By building a wall and then charging people to see what's behind it? Look at Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. too. That one literally costs more than double.
The first fight only ran you about $25. The second one costs you about $60 if you don't lock in for this ultimate tier. But what the fuck happened between the first fight and now that it costs so much more now?
It doesn't even make sense because Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn is really only relevant to a UK audience. So if you want to bill it as a pay-per-view, you can do that for them, but why are you doing it for us in the United States? And why does it cost us more to see it?
That really doesn't make sense. If that fight is a hot ticket for anybody, it's a hot ticket for Brits, not Americans. But for Americans to see it, they have to pay more than the Brits. We have to pay more than everybody.
It's fucking bullshit.
And you know that Inouye versus Picasso fight, the kind of fight that we would have normally got on ESPN Plus as a regular fight as part of our subscription, you know that that's a pay-per-view too.
It's fucking bullshit.
Some of Inouye's biggest fights, like the Stephen Fulton fight and the Luis Nery fight, we got to see those fights that were in fact bigger than this one at no additional charge. So why do we now have to pay $60 to see it, or worse, subscribe annually to watch him fight Alan Picasso? Who the fuck is Alan Picasso? Is he related to Pablo Picasso de Pena?
He must be for what these guys are charging. It's like what a Kent said. They're upscaling regular cards to pay-per-view so that when they release the Ring Pass, it will feel justified. It will feel like they're saving you money, when in reality, they're just extracting more of it, finding an excuse to charge you more, and more often.
More money!
Corey Rapax stated, DAZN Ultimate for US boxing fans will cost almost 2 times as much as NFL Sunday Ticket and 4 times as much as NBA League Pass each year, sports that are a lot more popular in this country than boxing. Of course, boxing will go out sucking every dollar it can out of the hardcore fan. The industry doesn't know another way, but hey, let's blame Dana.
Now, do you remember what I said about Dana White and how so many people are worried about Dana? Boxing's got bigger problems than Dana White. But speaking of Dana,
this is how Dana can get a leg up on the competition with his Zuffa Boxing when it launches, because when it launches, it is not going to cost the boxing fan what DAZN is costing the boxing fan. A Paramount Plus subscription only runs you about $12.99. That's a hell of a lot less than it would cost you to watch boxing on DAZN.
curiosity about what Zuffa is going to look like and what kind of fighters are going to end up over there is already going to draw some eyes to it, but the price, that will really help. That Zuffa will provide boxing that the common man can afford, the poor man, because boxing is a poor man's sport. It's not for the wine and cheese crowd. I'll ask again, at what point in the calendar year does the average Joe Blow and the blue-collar worker have $500 to burn, $500 to dedicate to just boxing, and just boxing on one platform, because this doesn't cover what pay-per-views the PBC are doing?
Between now and the end of the year, DAZN is doing 3 pay-per-views in succession. 3. That's not even counting the Isaac Cruz versus Lamont Roach pay-per-view.
It's not even counting Jack versus Mikhailian 2. Not that I expect anybody to buy it, because I don't.
Just call a spade and call it what it is. They betrayed us. They promised a long time ago that DAZN would herald the end of pay-per-view, and now they're doing more pay-per-views than anybody in the industry.
They betrayed us. And not only them, Turkey lied. Turkey betrayed us because he promised earlier this year that they would end pay-per-view, and this is not it. This is not that. You're not ending pay-per-view, you're doing more of it.
You're creating a problem and then charging us for the solution. Pretending that you're ending pay-per-view by charging us for this ultimate tier on top of what we're already paying. So say you're a DAZN subscriber, an existing subscriber who pays either month to month or once annually. What are you getting for that money? What are you getting?
What, Buatsi versus Parker?
$225 annually. For Buatsi versus Parker? For Ortiz versus Lubin?
You fucking joking?
That's why Top Rank needs to hurry up and come back. Top Rank needs to hurry up and come back and pose some resistance for what is this brazen price gouging, because that's what that is. This is price gouging. More commonly known as upcharging for what are essential goods and services, usually after a natural disaster. Many states have laws in place against it.
Now, boxing not falling under that category of essential goods and services, really, it's just entertainment. That's what makes this all the more asinine. Boxing is supposed to be entertainment, nothing more and nothing less. It's not essential to your survival.
It shouldn't cost this much, and that's the bottom line. You're only compounding on an existing problem. There were already too many pay-per-views out there. All this is gonna do is drive more people to watch boxing via pirate sites and illegal streams.
This is basically what the PBC was doing at the height of their popularity, in between Showtime and Fox.
What a Showtime subscription would have costed you in tandem with all the box office fights they were doing on that platform and Fox, you were looking at roughly $1,000, a little over $1,000 to take in all those boxing matches. Ludicrous. This is not that far off. DAZN are now doing what the PBC was doing, and what the PBC was doing is what led Fox to move away from boxing, Showtime to move away from boxing.
Listen, I can afford it. As a content creator, I can pour that $500 into that ultimate tier subscription, then make it back during the live streams and the live watch-alongs. I can do that, but everybody's not a content creator. Everybody doesn't have that option. So for you to think that you can charge regular people, ordinary folks, this much for boxing?
My advice, I wouldn't lock into this thing if I were you guys. I would only pay for what pay-per-views I want to watch. If I'm going to buy something, I want to know what it is.
If you sign on for this ultimate tier, you're locked in for a year, but you don't know what those other pay-per-views are going to look like. What if it's more of those Moses Atalma versus Dillian White pay-per-views, or Wortley versus Parker?
Those cards were not pay-per-view worthy, and neither were those main events to an American audience. There's a legitimate argument that Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank, that shouldn't be a pay-per-view for us either. What the hell is the advantage of a global streaming platform that treats everything like an add-on?
They betrayed us. It's as simple as that. They lied.